Gratitude can be broken down into two words, grateful and attitude, and that equals happiness. If we're on this planet, we are born with purpose. So, what is your purpose on this planet? You don't retire at a certain age because you're not needed in the workforce anymore. You don't retire from life. Like, you still have meaning and purpose, and live that meaning and purpose, because it will really extend your life.
This is the Energy Within podcast, all about accessing, nurturing, and building your energy and confidence so that you can design your life the way you want. My name is Carrie Jokala. I am your host. I am a Reiki master, a fitness instructor, a wife, a mom to 2 little boys, and this is a very, very important episode that I hope you get some awesome takeaways from that you will actually implement. Obviously, I hope that you get awesome takeaways and implement things from all of my other podcast episodes as well. But this one is very important for your brain health. Today, I'm talking with Alexi Bracey, who is a dementia prevention coach. And before you look at me, first of all, you clicked on this title for a reason. But secondly, no matter what age you are, it is not too soon to take care of your brain health and do everything that you can to prevent that decline, whether or not you have risk markers for dementia. I think a lot of us have had family members who either had before they passed or currently are dealing with dementia, Alzheimer's, and it's, from what I hear, quite prevalent these days. When Alexi and I were first talking in setting up the interview, she mentioned that 50% of the world's population are expected to die of neurological disorders. So it's time to pay close attention to your brain and how the things that you're eating, the actions that you're taking or not taking are affecting it. We talk about so much in this interview. And before we launch in, I mentioned this a little bit during the interview and I wrap up with it, but I just want to address in the beginning. I know that it can seem very overwhelming with the whole list of all the things that we might be up against and the labels that we have to read and the things that we have to be conscious of and the things that we have to do or not do, what's really good for you, what's actually not, even though it seems like it is. It can be overwhelming, but one step at a time, one thing at a time. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. In fact, that's what sets you up for failure. So as you're listening, if anything sticks out to you, make that your one thing that you're going to start with. Such an important conversation. Our brains are necessary. I don't know any other way to say it. We need to actively take care of our brain health. We can't just expect it to take care of itself. It does a lot on its own. It will clean itself out of toxins on its own if we're getting enough sleep, and Alexi will talk about that. So I can't wait for you to hear this one. If you like it, please share it so that more people can get this information. Tag me and let me know what stuck out to you. Here we go. Alexi, I'm really excited to have you here and talk about this very important topic. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, well, I'm just as excited to share and inspire people.
Yay. So I'll let you start off, let everyone know a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Well, I'm a dementia prevention coach, and that sort of happened unexpectedly many, many years ago when I was diagnosed with cancer. And I changed my lifestyle habits. Unknown to me, the ones that I had probably caused this challenge, but I say cancer saved my life because as a result of that, I've spent the last 20 plus years learning all I can about health, healing, natural, holistic ways, and everything related to from energy medicine to you name it. And then I was beginning to be interested in dementia myself because I was approaching, my wisdom years. And it seems to be a hot topic in the news today. And I freelance as a chef once in a while, and I was working at a nursing home. And at this particular day, it was lunchtime. And in the main dining room, you could hear the residents. They were all animated, having a lively conversation, lots of laughter. And just a short walk down the hallway was another dining room where I was stationed. And in it were about 20 women seated at tables of four. Some of them had to be visually shown on two plates, their lunch entrees, because they couldn't read it or understand it. Some had to have their food cut up. Some were feeding themselves like a 3-year-old,
Mm.
and there was no eye contact, no social interaction. All you could hear was the knives and forks on the plates. And some of these women were in their 50s, much younger than me.
Oh,
I
wow.
thought, the world has to know that this is totally preventable. You don't have to end up in a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
It just broke my heart. It just broke my heart.
Yeah. So you mentioned it being preventable, and I've heard that like once you start down that path that it might not be reversible, that like you can slow it down, but can't necessarily reverse it. But if we can prevent it. Can you talk a little bit more about that part of it?
Well, we can prevent it and we can stop it if it's already in process. There are things you can do to stop it. In terms of reversing it, you would have to see Dr. Bresden, I know, has been very successful in reversing it. But let's go back to preventing. Preventing, well, it's a word nobody wants to use.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow I'll start my diet. Tomorrow I'll get more sleep. Tomorrow I'll start exercising. But tomorrow is not a day of the week.
Right.
So, you have to take action today. So the key things that I focus on it from a functional medicine model, meaning I like to get to the root cause. Yes, I can suggest lifestyle changes you can make. Your symptoms may improve, but you may not get the benefits or prevent it totally until you get to the root cause. And the root cause could be many other items. So I'll just talk about the prevention right now. Glyphosate is the active ingredient used by Monsanto's Roundup, sprayed on crops for a better yield. So it interferes in the structure and formation of these foods. And so hence, it has been known, by the way, as a known carcinogen. And it interferes with your sleep cycle and your digestion. And your brain detoxifies while you sleep. So if you're not getting good sleep,
Mm-hmm.
your brain's going to hold on to these toxins. So foods that contain or that are sprayed with glyphosates are all grains, beans, legumes, tomatoes, potatoes, yams, flax seeds.
Wow.
That's pretty much it. So definitely pay attention to these foods. They have to be consumed organic.
Okay. So we're pretty much okay as long as it's organic.
Yeah, as long as it's organic,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
And then, of course, the trans fats and the saturated fats play a big role in the formation of plaque in your brain. So what are saturated fats? Where they're processed meats, cured meats, bacon, dairy. So it's a lifestyle choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then the trans fats are found in your pastries, your cookies, your packaged foods like crackers and granola bars. So again, it's your choice.
Right.
Make your own, buy them organic. But then also, there's a lot of greenwashing with the labels. I really
Right.
highly suggest for people to learn to identify ingredients in the foods that you are, considering buying or that you have at home in your pantry, because they're not all as pure as the driven snow as they make out to be.
Right.
So if you can't pronounce it and you don't know what it is, look it up on the internet. Like for example, when they say natural food colorings. Well, if it's natural, tell me what it is.
Right. I've always wondered that too. I'm like, why can't you just tell me what it is?
Like it's just like even foods like that we feed our pets, like they'll say meal ingredients. Well, what's meal ingredients?
Yeah.
Label that. Well, meal ingredients or ground up meal is usually duck beak or chicken beaks, chicken feet, rendered animals. It's all about becoming educated. That is totally the bottom line.
Yeah.
To become educated.
Mm-hmm. You really got to be your own advocate and watch out for what you're consuming, what you're buying.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because these companies are in the business to make money. They're not in the business to keep you healthy.
Right. I'm sure obviously there are markers for whether or not someone's more at risk for dementia than somebody else, but is it typically, I don't know if I'm asking you a question that you can answer, but is it typically people who have markers for dementia who are actually going to end up with it, or would someone who has no markers, could they still suddenly have the onset of it without
Well,
having those
there's sort of
markers?
there's silent markers like perhaps not being sharp with decision making or not being as innovative as you could before. Like if you're a person that has a smart remark for anybody that says something, maybe you can't do that anymore.
Mhm.
Brain fog. I mean, we all suffer from brain fog once in a while. You can't remember where you put your keys.
Mhm.
Like for myself, because I'm a plant-based chef predominantly, and so sometimes I'll take some food samples with me to a client or wherever, and so in order that I don't forget these things because they're refrigerated, I'll put my car keys in the fridge to
Oh,
remind myself.
okay.
And then I can't find my car keys. Oh yeah, they're in the fridge. So if somebody would come into my house and see car keys in the fridge, they'd say I was
Yeah.
suffering from dementia. But no, I'm doing it for a particular reason.
Right. That's interesting and
Yeah,
not a bad idea. Maybe I should do that because I actually do, like, for the longest time I've always tried to like have everything that I need in the morning if I'm going to be leaving the house already grouped together, because if it's not sitting right there, I'm going to forget it, and I still might forget it if it's sitting right
well,
there. But
exactly.
if it, as long as it's close enough together and in one spot, then I can just scoop it up without having to think about it and know that I
Yeah.
have everything.
Yeah, but there's some health challenges that you may have that are related to your brain. For
Hmm.
example, anxiety and depression is related to your frontal brain. So until those are addressed, your brain is not going to be functioning optimally, and you're really more of a candidate for dementia and neurological disorders.
Okay. And that sounds concerning to me because of, I don't know numbers, but I feel like so many more people today have anxiety than in the past. Like, it seems like almost every young person that I meet up, not that I'm not a young person, but like even people younger than me are like, I have anxiety, or that's upsetting my anxiety, blah blah blah. And I feel like it's a lot more prevalent. So it could be an even bigger problem leading up to dementia if that's one of the markers.
Yeah, and so as I mentioned, because I like to get to the root cause, there may be other contributing factors
Mm-hmm.
that are resulting in your poor memory. For example, mold is a really big one.
Okay.
You may not have mold in your house right now, but maybe it was where you lived before. Maybe where you vacationed,
Mm-hmm.
and did your bathtub overflow? Did your sink start leaking? There's a lot of telltale signs that people sort of really ignore, and that water has to be dried within 48 hours, or it will end up being more mold spores. Your air ducts, like, I mean, it collects in all sorts of places. Then
Mm-hmm.
there's parasites. There's heavy metals. Do you have silver amalgams in your mouth? Do you get enough sleep? Do you exercise? Have you unresolved emotional issues? All these factors contribute not just to dementia, but to your health overall.
Right.
But if you're totally addressing, prevent dementia prevention, this is really something to consider.
Mm-hmm. It it can almost sound a little overwhelming, the list of things that we're
Absolutely.
up
Yeah.
against. So where do you recommend starting with so many things to look at? Is there one place that you recommend starting, or just that usual advice that we all try to live by of taking it one step at a time?
Dr. Amen is a world renowned brain trauma specialist.
I've heard of him. Yes.
And you don't know, you know, I highly recommend, if at all possible, to get a SPECT scan. That's spelled SPECT. And what that does is it tells you the state, it takes a photo of your brain. It's not an x-ray of where, there may be atrophy or holes in your brain or whatever. And that could be for many reasons, not just your lifestyle. Maybe you fell off the swing when you were 3 years old. Maybe you got pushed down the stairs. Maybe you got hit in the head with a frisbee or a baseball. Maybe somebody pulled the chair from underneath you as a prank. Maybe you fell skiing. Contact sports are horrific for suffering brain trauma, especially like hockey or football. Boxing. I mean, what did Muhammad Ali die from? Because your brain is like soft butter, and it's enclosed in this thorny outer coating, and it just gets whacked around.
Mm-hmm.
So really consider the state of your brain, because you may think you've got a good brain, but maybe there's some underlying things that you should really address. And
Yeah.
so like the frontal brain is responsible for brain fatigue and brain fog. The hippocampus, the back part of the brain, is responsible for memory. So, it's not just clear cut, but, basically lifestyle habits will certainly improve your brain and the state of your health.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you bring up Dr. Amen and that brain spect, because there's a woman that I follow, Chalene Johnson, who her whole journey to figuring out, the gut brain health connection and ways to heal your body with food and all that. And she's actually, her and her husband are currently taking care of his father, who has, I think, yeah, it's technically Alzheimer's that he has, but it's all very similar types of things that they're trying to do to help slow it down at least and give him the best quality of life he can have right now. But it all started with her going to Dr. Amen and getting a brain spect. And her issue was that she had been very kind of intentionally depriving herself of sleep for many, many years. And when she went in thinking she was going to have like this awesome brain scan and, she's going to be like the poster child. And instead, they started off asking her, have you been having chemotherapy? And she's like, no. Okay, did you have a drug habit in the past? And she's like, no. And the only other conclusion that it could have been was lack of sleep. So it was incredible to see how much damage just that lack of sleep had done to her brain. And who knows what else had factored into it as well, but that seemed to be the biggest contributing factor. But then launching in and doing all this research and figuring out, what she can do to change that, even within a year, she was able to make great strides. So I think, knowing that story gives some hope that even though it seems like we're up against a lot of challenges and obstacles in this fight to prevent dementia, that it can be done.
Yeah, like our brain, our body really is so resilient. If you give it the good food, it can really bounce back. Even Dr. Amen, who thought his brain was pretty good, when he had a SPECT scan, he was totally surprised too. So, we all think, oh, well, no, I exercise and I do all the right things. But yeah, the SPECT scan doesn't lie.
Right. And it's interesting to know that we can determine all of that just from a picture of the brain.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Continuing with this sleep discussion.
Oh, yes, that's a big one.
One of the things that you mentioned, and something that I know I do, and if I'm going to be honest, electronics in the bedroom. I'm personally not necessarily scrolling, but I still have my phone on. Like I'll have music playing, as I'm trying to fall asleep or doing a meditation. But then other times I'll have like Hulu or Netflix on and have a show on in the background, which I know is horrible. And I know that when I didn't do that, my sleep was so much better. But then I fell into this habit, and it's become hard to break because it's become a comfort thing. So
I hear you.
Can you talk about what the electronics in the bedroom do, that, reasons why we shouldn't?
Once again, you detoxifies while you're sleeping. So you need your bedroom in complete darkness. No night light on down the hall that's shining in through the door, or a night light in your room. It interferes with the sleep cycle, the detoxification, the electronic frequencies emitted by these wireless devices, electronic devices, harm your brain. So your electric clock radio, should throw it out. Get a wind-up clock, because that blue light really penetrates your pineal gland and is very toxic. Your cell phone, at the very least, should be on airplane mode, preferably in another room or at the very end of your bed, as far away from you as possible. You don't go to bed watching a movie on Netflix. You don't have your big screen TV in the bedroom. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have a stereo system. You don't have your exercise equipment. Your bedroom is only for two reasons. One of them is sleep.
I like that. I feel like there would be so many people that push back against that, but like, if you want to make the changes that you need to make, and
Yeah, well, you decide what changes you want to make,
right,
and you know, try it for a day or one or two nights or even a week, and see if you don't sleep better.
right, yeah,
You should turn your computer off at least 2 hours before you go to bed anyway,
mm-hmm,
because of the blue light. So it's just a habit, totally just a habit.
right,
We have to check our messages first thing in the morning. Like we're just addicted to our cell phones, totally addicted.
mm-hmm.
One of our large service providers went under for 24 hours, no reception for 24 hours a couple of weeks ago.
Oh,
Panic mode, like panic mode. I couldn't even check my messages on my cell phone. So I thought, well, I can try it on my computer because it's a different provider. But in order to access it, I went and I used somebody else's computer that they have, a different provider, to access my emails. But in order to prove who I am, they send a text message to what?
oh
My cell
yeah.
phone. So I couldn't do it, like we're just so dependent on this.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, there was a time when last year, in the middle of a big stretch of interviews that I was doing every week for the podcast, my phone was going haywire and it needed to be sent in. So I'm like, okay, what can I do here? I'm like, okay, well, I have an iPad. I can use my iPad. Well, the iPad was old, but I, figured I could at least log in and just get it going. But I didn't have all of the apps that I needed on my iPad. So I needed to try to download them all, but then it wasn't letting me do it because it was sending authorization codes to my phone that I needed to put in to
That's
my
right. I
iPad.
know.
I'm like, come on.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how addicted we are to
Right.
our cell phones and everything on the internet. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It certainly wasn't like this 20 years ago.
Right. And I was just thinking too about that thought process of like, okay, there used to be a time when we lived life without this and everything was fine and everybody was still able to contact each other. You got things done. You found the information that you needed. But then I got to think, okay, it's actually been many more years than I feel like it is since all this was implemented. And there's a whole generation now that has never known life without a cell phone.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it almost doesn't make sense to tell them that we used to live without it because they'd be like, well, how? I never have. So this is
Yeah, I
life.
know.
What are you talking
I know.
about?
Just like, without color TV or without a TV, what was like before that. I remember when I was a little girl, when we got our first black and white TV, and it went offline at 11 o'clock at night.
I'm old enough to to remember when TV still shut off at a certain point, and the national anthem would play and the planes flying by.
That's right. And then we'd have all the snowflakes across the screen,
Yep.
buzzing things. I know.
So you mentioned achieving blue mind. Could you talk a little bit about that? That sounded really interesting.
Well, we know that stress kills. I mean, it's been around, the slogan's been around for years, whether it's related to heart attack or, whatever. Blue mind is the semi-meditative state you achieve when you are in, on, or near water. It's a word coined by Dr. Wallace Nichols, a marine biologist, who did studies on water. He took some marine veterans who were suffering from PTSD. He took a group of them down to repopulate the coral reefs in the Caribbean, and they all overcame their PTSD. There's
Oh,
something
wow.
about being around water. If you think about it, we spend the first 9 months in water.
Yeah.
Why do we flock to the cottages in the summertime, go to the islands in the wintertime? There's power boating, there's kayaking, there's skiing, there's canoeing, there's swimming in fountains, there's water fountains, there's walks in the woods, there's skiing in the wintertime, there's walks in the rain. Water has that semi-meditative state. So
Mm-hmm.
for people that can't meditate, or they're not into, say yoga or qigong, you need something to relax your mind. You can have screensaver on your computer with raindrops or waves crashing against the shore. And then everybody can do this at least once a week, if not every other day, with soft meditative music, some candles, and essential oils, is to have a bath.
Mm-hmm.
And baths are not exclusive to women only.
Right. I love baths.
Oh, yeah, it's so relaxing. We always say, "Oh, I'm gonna have a bath," and you get out and you go, "Oh, I'm so relaxed." Well, make it a weekly practice, or every several days,
Yeah.
or just take walks out in nature where there's water.
Mm-hmm.
But by a little creek or a stream, or sit by a water fountain, or there's just so many things you can do to relieve that stress.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a small water fountain in your house.
Right.
That's really good for chi energy. So
Yeah.
depending on where you place it, but anyway.
Oh, now we're getting into feng shui.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's just so many little things you can do that you know aren't going to break the bank account, and you can implement them today. You
Mm-hmm.
know.
Honestly, even just as you were talking, just thinking about imagining being at the
Oh yeah,
beach
I
is
know. I
like
mean,
I feel that
look,
relaxation coming over me.
well, there's a great documentary on this called Blue Mind. I highly recommend it,
Okay.
and it's just amazing how he documents how he took these Marine veterans, on their various trips, and it's just absolutely amazing, just
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
The power of nature is
It always
incredible.
is,
Yeah.
always is, you know. So going to nature, I would also like to stress the power of a plant-based lifestyle.
Right. Yep.
People say, well, where's the protein? Where's my meat? Well, where do animals get their protein from? By eating grass. The blue zones, which are 5 communities of people on the planet that boast the healthiest, longest living, well into their 90s and hundreds, with a healthy body and a sharp mind. 99% of the time, they are plant-based. They grow their
Okay.
own crops. They drink pure water. They get enough sleep. Outside of these small communities, Linda Loma in the United States is one of these 5 blue zones.
Okay.
So really something to emulate.
Mm-hmm.
They at the most eat meat once a week, at the very least once a month. So you don't need your protein meat protein 3 times a day.
Right.
I suggest try meatless Mondays. Get your family involved, get a friend involved, just to see, because there's just so many health benefits in plants, because plants are what nourish the soil. I
Right.
mean, you know.
Well, and I noticed too, what I tend to tell people when I would do fitness assessments with them, and we get to the nutrition section where I'm asking them what they're eating all day and then trying to help them make some tweaks. 2 of the main things that I always point out that I personally have felt a difference in how I feel and just my energy is drinking more water, of course, and then being very conscious about increasing how many vegetables I eat. Even if I don't change anything else about my diet, just adding in those vegetables, because we definitely don't eat enough. Most people don't eat enough from what I've experienced.
And you need fiber,
Mm-hmm.
because fiber provides the healthy bacteria to proliferate your gut for a strong immune system. So, I mean, probiotics help, but they're generic in the sense that maybe you need a little bit more of a lactobacillus strain, or maybe you need
Okay.
another strain of whatever. So you get fiber from a variety. You get more probiotics from a variety of different vegetables that are high in fiber content. So that's like cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, celery. So, make it a daily habit to have at least, 2, 3 of these vegetables every single day, and just rotate them. Don't eat the
Mm-hmm.
same ones over and over again. And of course, we can't forget our greens. I mean, they're
Right.
super healthy.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Mom brain. I've been doing, God, I maybe I need to implement some of these changes because I've been doing that a lot lately where like I think of something that I need to write down that I need to remember to do later. And usually it's my phone that I'm going to go add into my notes section. And by time I get my phone open, even though it's only taken a couple seconds, I'm like, what was I going to write down? What did I need to do? Oh, crap. Oh, it's gone. It was vegetable related, but it's gone.
Well, again, organic vegetables, the ones that are the most toxic because they're sprayed with other pesticides besides the ones that I spoke about with the glyphosate, and some of them are genetically modified. So the great list to determine which ones need to be eaten organic or non is a great site called ewg.org, and that stands for Environmental Working Group. And so every year they come up with new testing, and they have what is called the Healthy 15 and the Dirty Dozen. So the
Okay.
Dirty Dozen are the ones that have to absolutely be organic, and the Healthy 15 are the ones that you can just eat, conventionally grown.
Okay. I've heard of that website actually. I'm glad that you mentioned it because there's other things that I've actually been wanting to look up on there and see how they rate. I know what it was. It was just an observation about when you said that fiber provides the healthy bacteria. I actually never knew that fiber was connected with a bacteria aspect. The only thing I'd ever really heard of fiber is that it keeps you full.
Very beneficial,
Yeah.
definitely. And then again, if I could just add, not all probiotics that you buy at the health food store are created equal.
Sure,
I highly
yeah.
suggest to get a probiotic that is shelf stable. That means it does not need refrigeration, perhaps after being open, but it's not found in the refrigerated section of your health food
Okay.
store because these bacteria may have died if they need refrigeration, depending on how they were shipped. Was the truck refrigerated? How long did they sit in the back room at the health food store before they got put away to
Sure.
where they belong? So really pay attention. Shelf stable, that means it doesn't need refrigeration. Some of them may need refrigeration after they're open.
Okay. Good to know. I feel like we've covered so much, but I also feel like it's encouraging to know that a lot of the steps that we can take to keep our brain healthy and prevent dementia are a lot of the same things that we already should be doing just to
Mhm.
keep ourselves healthy in general. So despite how overwhelming everything can seem, if we just look at the fact that it's like, well, if you're just living the healthy lifestyle and making the changes that you need to make, then you're on the right path.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be monumental. And I just suggest to people, think of one thing you can implement right now, having listened to this podcast. And then next week, add something else. And the following week, add another thing. So,
Hmm.
you don't want to train for the Boston Marathon and run 26 miles in training immediately. You do
Right.
it gradually in baby steps. So it's not
Hmm.
overwhelming. And then, if you go on a meatless Monday, or if you take the electronics out of your bedroom, it'll prove to yourself how much better you may feel.
Right. And I think another important thing to point out that we so often might give up quickly if we don't see an immediate response. So I think it's important to
Exactly.
note stick with it for more than a week before you judge it.
Exactly.
Right. But hopefully, you might notice some changes within that week as
Well,
well. So,
sooner.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Like if you get enough fiber, your digestion will improve, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. Is there anything that we did not cover that you think would be important to note before we wrap?
Gratitude.
Okay.
Big time gratitude. Gratitude can be broken down into two words, grateful and attitude, and that equals happiness. So, like these blue zones, for example, they are happy people.
Mm-hmm.
If we're on this planet, we are born with purpose. So, what is your purpose on this planet? What do you get up in the morning excited about doing? If you have a mundane job, do something else. Are you excited because your book is being launched, because you are training for the Boston Marathon, because you have taken your grandson under your wing because he liked to watch you make cookies and now he's a baker. Maybe you're the uncle or the grandfather that took his niece or granddaughter under his wing and taught her how to become a world-class skier. What gives you purpose and meaning in your life? Because we all have something.
Yeah.
You don't retire at a certain age because you're not needed in the workforce anymore. You don't retire from life. Like, you still have meaning and purpose, and live
Right.
that meaning and purpose, because it will really extend your life.
Mm-hmm.
I have a girlfriend that plays bingo on FaceTime with her 4-year-old grandson. And like, she's so excited to see his glee when grandma appears on the screen. And she's totally delighted as well. And this is something he will grow up with and remember.
Right. I've heard too that the grandparents who are involved on a regular basis with their grandchildren tend to live longer. So I always tell my parents, like,
Without a
there's a
doubt.
reason. Here, you want to watch the kids all the time. Here, take them.
I know. I just what gives you meaning in your life? Like, I
Yeah.
have 4 pets. So I spend a lot of time with them. I take my dogs for a walk twice a day. And then I talk to my animals. I stroke them. That gives me meaning and purpose, plus my passion for educating
Mm-hmm.
people, about good health. One of the other ways I show gratitude and happiness for another person is I approach people at the dog park, at the grocery store, at the ATM machine, at the gas bar, and I say, "Can I put a chuckle in your heart?" And they sort of look at me and go, "I'd like to tell you a joke." And so for 2 minutes, I have a captive audience. They laugh. They may go home and share it with a loved one,
Uh-huh.
and it still feeds my soul. And, I just took 2 minutes to brighten somebody's day, because you don't know what kind of day people are having.
Right.
Like, we just don't know. So, having said that, can I tell you a joke?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, a Mennonite couple have ordered their lunch, and they're sitting at the table. They have one hamburger and one order of fries. And the man carefully cuts the hamburger in two, cuts the French fries, and puts them to the side. And they share a glass of water. And so he's eating his hamburger, and the woman is just sitting there watching. And all the people in the restaurant going, "Oh, how sad, they can't afford to have another meal for the wife." And so a young man comes up and he says, "I'd love to buy you another meal." And the man says, "Oh no, we're fine. We're used to sharing." And so then he's finishing his fries and he's wiping his mouth, and the wife is still sitting there. And he goes up again and he says, "Really, I really would like to buy another meal." And he says, "No, we're used to sharing." And then the wife is still sitting there, and the man comes up to her again and says, "Well, what are you waiting for?" And she says, "The teeth." They're used to sharing, right?
Oh my God. I like that. That's a good one. You remind me of me, because I love to tell jokes, and every time I'm up teaching classes, if I can remember one, I'll throw in like a really bad dad joke or something that's got like a silly punchline. I like all that kind of stuff.
Well, this actually happened quite unexpectedly. I worked for 4 summers at one particular fishing lodge. I sometimes freelance at fishing lodges because it's only 2 or 3 or 4 months, like in remote areas that you have to fly in or go in on a barge. And so the guests at this particular lodge, 90% of them were repeats, and some of them had been coming up like for 50 and 60 years.
Oh wow.
So like, they were old timers, like in their 70s, 60s, 70s and beyond. And so after dinner, I would go and talk to them. Well, what am I going to talk to them about? Fishing? No. So I started telling jokes. So the next year they go, "Oh, Alexi, have you got jokes?" And so I started collecting jokes over the years.
Oh,
So this
wow.
is how this all happened. And you know what? I was feeding positive energy and gratitude to these older men
Mm-hmm.
because I made them laugh. And
Yeah.
by the same token, it so feeds my soul. I tell you,
Yeah.
I get just as much of a chuckle out of it.
I love it. That's so awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alexi. This has been so great, and I think a very, very important topic for people to listen to and take some action on. Why don't you let everyone know how they can find you and connect with you?
Well, I have an app called the Whole Health app. And on the app, I have a free quiz. Are you at risk for dementia? Questions and answers. So, and to access the app, if you have an Android, you type in Whole Health, one word, lowercase. If you have an iPhone, type in the Whole Health app. And so under articles, you will find the quiz.
Okay.
And once you've done the quiz, I offer a complimentary 20-minute kitchen pantry assessment. So we can either do a Zoom call or go over what things that you maybe should eliminate from your kitchen pantry because they're not helping your brain health.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alexi.
My pleasure. I've really enjoyed this too. Great sense of humor between the two of us.
Well, I am very grateful, connection intended there, for Alexi coming on the podcast. We talked initially in setting up this interview, and I just felt that the whole brain health topic is very important for everyone to be addressing because it ties in with your energy on all levels. If you're feeling drained, if you're not properly taking care of yourself, it can lead to these problems down the road, such as dementia. And knowing that it's preventable, why wouldn't we do the things that we need to do to prevent it? Because once it's here, it's going to be a bigger challenge to slow down or reverse if it's even possible. And again, just to reiterate that it can sound overwhelming, all of the things that she listed that we need to watch out for, that we need to be careful of whether or not we're purchasing certain things organic, what we're up against with our food and our sleep and our stress levels and everything that is just in our way, preventing us from living our healthiest life. But there are things that we can do. And again, knowing that it typically is the advice that we already know about what we need to do to live a healthy life: get good sleep, exercise, eat healthy, eat the right foods, don't use your phone before going to bed. All of those things factor in. So pick one thing that you think is the most important thing for you to tackle right now. Start with that, stick with it, and then once you feel comfortable with that, implement the next thing. If this resonated with you, if you feel like this is an important conversation like I do, please share it so that more people can get this information so that they can start to make the changes they need to make. Go ahead and post a screenshot, do a screen flow, grab some audio, tag me, tag Alexi, let us know what resonated with you, what questions you might have. Go ahead and download that Whole Health app and find out if you are at risk for dementia. God, so much to check out. Dr. Amen, I follow him, but I have not done a lot of looking into all of his stuff, but I know I've heard so much about him. I think he has a podcast too, but I'm not certain. But look him up if you're able to do that brain spect. I've never done it, but I would highly recommend it. It's something that I would like to do. I know it's a little bit expensive, but if you have the funds, it could be worth it. I'm going to say could be. It would be. It will be. It is worth it. The documentary, the Blue Mind documentary, looking up ewg.org to find out what foods you need to buy organically. And I believe there's also, I've heard that there's ratings on there of things like our household cleaners and other products that we use, rating their levels of toxicity and whether or not they're actually good for you, even if they're labeled as natural, free, clear, clean, green. There's, like she said, a lot of greenwashing out there, which means that things can be labeled with certain words that make us think that they're safe and that they're okay for us to use, but they might not really be any better than the other version that doesn't have that label on it. So please go and check all of that out. Extremely important for your health. Please take some action on this one. So for everything that I listed, don't worry, The links are in the show notes. Stay positive, implement the changes that need to be implemented, and have some gratitude and enjoy your life. I knew there was a reason for my bad jokes. If you haven't done a Reiki session with me yet, I highly, highly encourage you to. So many women have been having mind-blowing, transformative sessions with me. And I'm just so blessed and honored to be a part of this journey. I invite you to go to my website and take a look at the testimonials that I've posted there. And I have a few more that I want to get up there as well. But there's just a sense of clarity, peace, a level of transformation, just being able to put the puzzle pieces together, and in some cases, realizing what's holding you back, what you need to get rid of. I even had someone just the other day during a group Reiki session got the message that everything's going to be okay. And then we did some card pulls and we affirmed that even further. I always include a card pull with your Reiki session. So if you have any questions on what Reiki is or how it can help you, I want to try to go into more detail at some point, but really, literally anything. You can give Reiki to physical things that are going on, to emotional things that are going on, to help open up your intuition, your third eye, your crown, to help give you better feelings of security and groundedness, to boost your confidence. We can send Reiki to situations, things that have happened in the past or things that you're concerned about, or even things that you're looking forward to. It doesn't have to be something you're worried about. Things that are going to happen in the future that you just want some extra energy, some extra good energy to help go well. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. I would so love to help you. Reiki, one of the reasons that I love doing it so much is that I know that I'm able to help people on a soul level. It goes so much deeper that way. Link is in the show notes. Jump into my group if you just want to try it out. I have some group Reiki videos that I've done in that group that are pinned in the announcements. You can find them in there. You can still receive, even though it's already over. Time's not linear. So jump into the group. The link for that is in the show notes as well. Thank you so much, as always, for being here, and I'll see you next time.